So, Bob, in a new piece for the Washington Post, you and Carl Bernstein write about the parallels between President Richard Nixon and President Donald Trump. And, quote, you write this: President George Washington, in his celebrated 1796 farewell address, cautioned that American democracy was fragile. Cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, he warned. Two of his successors, Richard Nixon and Donald Trump, demonstrate the shocking genius of our first president's foresight. As reporters, we had studied Nixon and written about him for nearly half a century, during which we believed with great conviction that never again would America have a president who would trample the national interest and undermine democracy through the audacious pursuit of personal and political self-interest. And then along came Trump. Both Nixon and Trump have been willing prisoners of their compulsions to dominate and to gain and hold political power through virtually any means. In leaning so heavily on these dark impulses, they defined two of the most dangerous and troubling eras in American history. As Washington warned in his farewell address more than 225 years ago, unprincipled leaders would create permanent despotism, the ruins of public liberty, and riot and insurrection. Riot and insurrection was actually something my father talked about on the set of Morning Joe years ago in a debate about income inequality and sort of where the public was, how it was feeling being left out. But, Bob, what's interesting here about this almost prediction about what could happen to our democracy, I'm curious your thoughts on perhaps the difference here is a compliant Congress, or what is the difference here that perhaps makes things more dangerous?
Well, I think it is more dangerous now. Remember, Nixon won with all of his deceit and the espionage and sabotage and cover-up campaign he conducted. Trump lost, but only, if you count it right, 47,000 votes. And Trump, at least according to my reporting, is on the comeback route. He wants to run again. And so it's interesting. Trump was, as we know, president for 4 years, and he learned some things about the levers of power. If he becomes president again, I think there's going to be not as much ambiguity. I think he will clearly do some things that are frightening to hold power again as president. So this needs to be examined. But I'm glad you went back and read what George Washington said. Carl and I didn't find that. My wife, Elsa, who's the historian in our family, went back and looked and said, here, Washington, 2 centuries ago, said it's fragile democracy, and we better worry about it. And, you know, the worry continues on so many fronts. Something Bob Costa and I wrote about in Peril, about Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Milley dealing with nuclear weapons and the fear he had, and then Nancy Pelosi, of all people, whether you like or dislike Nancy Pelosi, she has an instinct for figuring out the moment. And this was 2 days after January 6th. She and Milley have a conversation in which she says, and Costa and I have a transcript of this, she says to Milley, Trump is crazy. How do you know he won't use nuclear weapons? How do you know he's not under control? And Milley tries to calm her down. But one of the most extraordinary things that I've ever reported on, Milley had to call in the watch officers, 24/7 watch officers in the Pentagon, in the National Military Command Center, who handle the communication between the president and the forces. Milley literally had to call him in and say, I want each of you to swear that you understand that our procedures will ensure that I, Chairman Milley, am involved in any discussion to use military force or nuclear weapons. I mean, the idea that we had to worry about this, that Nancy Pelosi was worried about it. Now listen to CIA Director Burns on his public warnings, echoing what Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said and threatened to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. I mean, we are visiting. I'm sorry to go on so long, and I apologize, but we are visiting these problems, which are not just incidental, but they have to do with our democracy and in some way have to do with our survival.
Bob, when you and Carl write a piece like you wrote on Sunday, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, the most famous double byline in journalism, people pay attention. I find it fascinating that the two of you, with your long experience, would write this. I don't know how many thousand words it was, but this extraordinary piece, once again, sending up the alarm. My question is Merrick Garland listening? I mean, how is this battle royale within the Justice Department that you told us about going? Which way is Garland leaning? What do you think is going to happen? Are we indeed going to have a criminal investigation and perhaps prosecution at the highest levels of this conspiracy, the seditious conspiracy that clearly took place?
Well, there is an investigation going on. The question is, what will be done? As we know, Garland, very respected appellate court judge here in Washington, somebody very cautious. Being a judge, as we know in appellate or Supreme Court work, you can kind of take one from column A, one from column B, one from column C, and come up with a judgment and an opinion. In running the Justice Department, the decision to prosecute or not prosecute is binary. You either do or you don't. There's not really middle ground on here. And I don't have an answer to your excellent question. Where is this going? But I'm saying this is one area where in coming months, maybe even coming years, we're going to have to figure. And let me extend this, Gene, if you'll bear with me. The other person who has to worry about his legacy, not only Biden and Trump, indeed, but is Mike Pence. Now, Mike Pence is writing a book, I understand. I'm not sure when it will be out or what it's going to say, but Mike Pence's whole reputation has been defined by Trump. Is he for Trump? Is he against Trump? Now he's riding both horses to a certain extent, being much more severe. If I dug out some of the things that Costa and I had in peril about what Trump said to Pence the day before January 6th and on January 6th. I mean, this was really tough. Trump says to Pence, I don't want to be your friend anymore if you do this. In other words, if you follow the law and the Constitution. You've betrayed us. I made you. You were nothing. Your career is over if you don't do what I am telling you to do. And then the next day he says, I'm counting on you to do it my way. If you don't, I picked the wrong man 4 years ago. This is part of the overt acts in a conspiracy by the then President of the United States, threatening his vice president in a way that, again, there was no ambiguity.